There.
Best behavior now.
All right. We are good to go.
Welcome everybody to our Sustainability Committee meeting. It is Wednesday, April 10th. Time is 6:31 p.m. Are there any citizen comments?
None received.
Okay. Our first agenda item is consider approving minutes for the March 13th, 2021 meeting and take appropriate action. Is there any comments or discussion about the minutes from last month?
I will be approved.
Any discussion? Is there a second?
Is everyone voting tonight?
Yes.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor, say aye. Raise your hands. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you, Price.
Thank you.
I mean, you did such a good job. I think you've got this shot for life.
Your compliments.
Won't be wooed.
I'm trying. All right, second agenda item is to receive a presentation on the water conservation plan.
All right. I can get this presentation pulled up and then we have John Roach, who's the special project manager. You get this pulled up for you. You can just let me know when to.
Let's give John a round of applause there. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Oh, wow.
What happened?
It makes me change it to duplicate every time for some odd reason.
Have out back and forth between applications.
Yeah. All right. Take it away, John.
All right, well, thank you for the invite. Alex wanted to make sure that we came before the Sustainability Committee. The state requires entities who supply, water to more than 3,300 customers, to submit a water conservation plan once every 5 years. And so when 5 years come around, you have to update and go to council, get it approved and resubmit to the state. The deadline is May 1st. So, but the fun thing is you can't really start working on it until January 1st. And so it's a little bit of a squeeze because you also have 3 or 4 other reports that have to go to the state. And in the last 5 years or so, they've implemented a system where one report relies on the previous one. And so we work on those pretty much from the middle of January through about now. And so when we get them in decent shape, we want to bring it and present it to you. So the city also has to provide an annual report that's based on your 5-year plan. And what we talk about here on the next slide is the fact that you have 5 and 10-year targets for water use in gallons per capita per day. And the annual reports tell you how you're doing, whether you hit your target or missing your target. You don't want to set your goals too high. And the fact that we set a low bar for yourself, because then it doesn't look good. You don't want to set them too tight because then you might be busting them all the time. So the trick is to come up with something that's realistic. And so internally, we actually work with Alex and Shane and our director, Ryan Sarter, Director of Public Works, to come up with some realistic numbers. The plans also need to include utility profiles. So in your packet, most of the pages of what you saw for the WCP is utility profile. And that is, some of that, maybe 50 or 60% of it is pre-filled. Probably about half is pre-filled by the previous reports that you've submitted to the state. And then the rest of it is unique to the utility profile, and we have to fill that in and do some research, that kind of thing. Gallons per capita per day, of course, that's the best way to, across communities, to try to come up with something so the state can kind of compare how things are going and the way things are trending. We belong to a water planning group called Region C, Water Planning Group. In the water plan for Region C, they'll tell you pretty quickly, don't try to compare community to community. Don't try to compare Farmers Branch to Capel or Carrollton or Dallas. But as far as overall trends, you probably can look at GPCD as a good way to see if people are declining over time, or increasing. Obviously, if you use total water usage, if your population is going up, your total water usage may go up, right? Well, we had a number of years where our population was increasing, not astronomically, but going from 29 to 30 to 31. And total usage was actually coming down. So we do have pretty good trend lines for total GPCD, which is all water put into the system divided by the population divided by 365. Then they want to know residential water use, so that's single family and multifamily combined. And then finally, your water loss. Water loss is a fun topic in and of itself. As you can imagine, any system that is as big as ours, with a lot of joints and connections in the ground, with the ground that shifts, are going to have some, you're going to have some leakage, you're going to have some breakages. And so you try to keep that number to something that's reasonable. And what we found over the years is, one of the best ways you can reduce your water loss number, is to be more accurate on how you estimate how much water you might have lost in a water break. Starting in about 09, 10, 11, the guys really put a lot of effort into that. And then also, and maybe the best way to bring that number down is to have accurate meter readings, right? Now, your average single family home has a 3/4 or 1 inch meter. Those usually aren't too much of a problem, and we do update those quite often. We renew those meters. For a while, we're putting 300 new meters in the ground every year. Now it's actually increasing, and we have the new smart meter technology on there with the endpoints and such. And about 75 or 80% of our city, I think, has endpoints now. But the big numbers come in the large meters, the ones that affect commercial properties, large multifamily properties, colleges, school district, that kind of thing, city meters. And if one of those meters is off by 10 or 20 or 30%, you can imagine how much water is not being recorded. And if it's not being recorded, but it was purchased from Dallas, our water source is Dallas Water Utilities. You can imagine that then becomes water loss, right? And so the more accurate those readings are, the better. In the past, we allocated about 50,000 per year for large meter repair and replacement. We upped that to 100,000 several years back. We upped it to 200,000 in around 2017, I think. This year, we're going to go out for a bid for a contract that's going to be between 1 and 2 million for up to 40 meters. In fact, I think the number is 40. I checked with the guys in utilities just last week. So that's going to make a real nice impact on water loss.
Those are brand new meters.
Well, they can be either brand new from stem to stern, or it can be replacing the parts that count. If the brass body is in good shape, then we consider it a new meter to just replace the parts. The move to newer technologies, as you can imagine, with sonic reads and that sort of thing. I don't know much about that. I was actually hoping for one of our operations guys to be here to talk more about that, but suffice it to say that the more accurate the meters read, the less water loss. Good news for everybody. Also, doesn't hurt that there's more revenue that comes from that. And then a further side benefit of that is, as people see, as owners see their numbers going up because of more accurate reads, they'll likely curtail because the amount of money they're having spent. It's on the next slide. So other requirements of the plan, they want, of course, everybody to have universal metering. They don't want any connections where they're not metering. Basically, that's what that means. Meter testing is a big deal. Again, with the large meters, repair and periodic replacement, we talked about that. The water rate structure, that's listed in the appendix to the code of ordinances. It's where all the fees are for the city. And essentially what it means is you do not want to have lower pricing for higher usage. You want to stair step it up, and that does not encourage excessive water use. And then leak detection and repair is a big deal. We started 4 or 5 years ago, I believe, with an acoustic leak detection company that does, I believe, 25% of our city. Some of these numbers I may have wrong, so I don't hold to it. But I believe they do a quarter of our city a year. So over 4 years, they'll hit the whole city, and then they'll come back and start again. And they found a couple of significant issues that we've gone in and repaired. You can imagine if you don't have something like that, if you had a break under a bridge, under a creek, it could go a long time before somebody noticed that there was a leak. And a leak doesn't have to be necessarily huge to have a decent quantity that's escaped. It could be pinhole to then small crack, and eventually it could blow open. And once it does that, you know you have a problem elsewhere because you lose pressure in the system, that kind of thing. But over time, if it's a small leak, it can add up to a significant amount of water. So that's what we're doing. Every 5 years we do this. We take it to the state, we submit it, and then we have annual report. And then that's about it. Any questions?
I have a question. Do you have a dashboard or something? Because the city of Dallas came in here and they did a presentation on how their water usage per resident, basically, because of some of the implementation, like an AMI meters that were more than, and then I think city of Dallas also has infrastructure leak detection. That's a big one. And then with the AMI, residents also have the detection. So I know the city has an ITRON contract.
Yes.
For RF leaders, which is pretty good. But do you have a dashboard anywhere where you are actually showing the reduction in water usage per gallon per day?
We run some basic charts just for our use for this report. And we do show trends downward, similar to what Dallas DW was showing. We don't have that on a dashboard as something that people can access today. But one of the things that the city manager is working on is transparency along a lot of fronts. CIP projects, something like this would apply. I think it's even in the plan that one of the things in the future would be to have that dashboard available to residents where they can check their own AMI smart meters. And so that they could see that every 15-minute or 10-minute interval, figure, and if it's trending up, hey, what's going on, that kind of thing.
No, infrastructure is another thing that there's, we used in the industry, they call it non-revenue water. There are two or three different things that happen with non-revenue. One is the leak in the infrastructure itself, and evaporation, evaporation is another thing. And then fire hydrants testing is another one, because that's a major test that they do. So have y'all monitored that because with this leak company that you have doing the leak detection for you, have you monitored how your non-revenue water is going down as well?
Well, we do monitor and record and submit as part of our numbers. There's different categories of non-revenue water, I guess you might say. There's accounted for, unbilled, and unaccounted for, like the leaks that you're talking about. So if the fire department uses, blows off some water out of a fire hydrant for training purposes or whatever, they'll record that number and that goes on their monthly reports. And that goes in, I believe, what would be then the accounted for non-revenue. If we have to flush dead end mains, which is a requirement by TSEC, that you have to do that, we'll usually meter those. And that metering has helped us also bring down that unaccounted for water loss number. Because, prior to the time we started metering that, if we didn't have it, we didn't know what it was, you'd estimate it, but obviously the metering is gonna be a lot better. System-wide, from an infrastructure perspective, I know that utilities is looking into some sort of a monitoring detection system, whether it's acoustic or some other technology. I don't know the specifics on it, but they are looking into that. So I think those costs are coming down compared to 5 or 10 years ago.
The SCADA system, you're talking about the SCADA system.
That would be part of that, yeah.
Basically, there are technology available, sonic technology that can detect intermittently and large leaks. You know, I'm sure the water department would be very, very interested in taking the AMI is where you save the most. And the next is the infrastructure. So I'd be curious to know what the planning.
I've heard some anecdotal stories that's getting very good and if the points are picking up something, they can kind of pinpoint where that activity is occurring, which is a far cry from years ago.
Yeah.
So they are looking at that. I don't know how soon they're hoping to implement something, but I know they're looking into it.
I had a couple of questions. Look, I've got two actually. So, the first one is like, it sounds like the state has these requirements, but they don't set a minimum or a max, like a minimum threshold goal for you neither. Max.
They have a recommended number,
Okay.
but it's, what I've seen, it's kind of loose. It's a reference to 140 gallons per capita per day that somebody else says the state wants statewide. I haven't seen the TWDB say this is our goal. I think one of the reasons is because communities are so different. If you take a community like Farmers Branch that has a central residential core, but then a lot of multifamily, especially in the last 4 or 5 years, and some heavy industry, and the city's a big user too, then that number can look different than a community that's 90% residential, right? And so your GPCD may be higher, but if your line is trending down like the others should be, that's a good thing. And I think one of the things that has really helped all communities is the implementation statewide, or I guess throughout the nation, but certainly in Farmers Branch, we've adopted it in our codes, is the low water, reduced, everything from shower heads to toilets to dishwashers and that sort of thing. I think that has helped a lot. Additionally, I personally think that just awareness, general awareness is a lot better than it was 20, 25 years ago. You don't see people washing their car anymore with just the hose laying down with the water going down the gutter. You never see that anymore. I haven't seen it in 10 or 15 years. So I think those are a couple of reasons. And then you've just got, basically, because of these things, you've got trends that are, the total water usage is coming down significantly, and to the point where even if your population is increasing, like we've been, you can have less water total being pumped. That's trended up just a little bit in the last couple of years. But again, I think it's because of the population increase, especially with respect to multifamily. And then those multifamily properties also irrigate a lot of land. And you've got pools and you've got hosing down the decks and sidewalks and such. And they may or may not take seriously the fact that they don't need the water this week because it rained on Monday or whatever, that kind of thing. So that's one of the things that Alex and Shane and I talked about with regard to public outreach and education. We might be able to coordinate with you all on something like that. Because that's something that we really haven't done.
Yeah, that's great, because that was gonna be my second question, because I saw that a couple of the committee initiatives showed up in your report.
Okay.
And so the toilet rebate, so I was gonna say, if you could,
Irrigation.
yeah, if you could wave your magic wand and say, you know, for me, my department, if Farmers Branch did X, Y, Z, this would change everything. Like, if there's something we can help with, like in terms of that, like.
Well, I'm sure we'll come up with a short list of ideas and run them by you all. And a lot of it is just, comes down to, we're so busy tackling so many things that if we were able to focus and have a committee response, and instead of these 7 things, let's do these 4, you know, and concentrate on those and work with, our communications department, Jeff Brady and such. I think we could do some good things.
So are y'all responsible for making suggestions to the city and the city council as to changes or implementations that would benefit the overall outcome of the plan, the conservation plan, long-term?
It depends. If it's strictly within our operations, we would talk to the city manager and we could implement, for example, the acoustic leak detection, right? That's something I think that was staff driven, and we brought it before the city manager, and everybody thinks it's a great idea, as long as it doesn't cost too much. Gets approved by the council, that kind of thing, in the annual budget, and there you go. So, but with respect to policy changes and that sort of thing, that would definitely be.
Well, I guess what I'm really talking about more is like, you know, the planning and zoning committee is working on a landscaping ordinance, and if the management, you know, the water conservation plan included suggestions like drought resistant plants, or, you know what I'm saying, like things like
Yeah,
that, is that?
If it had to do with anything that's regulatory, yes, the city council would have to be involved. If, however, it's education and public outreach oriented, yeah, that's just something we could implement with the approval of the city manager, and then I'm sure an update to council. But one example I think would be, I believe DWU has resources that we could take advantage of that we simply haven't in the past, and we probably should. Videos, flyers, that kind of thing, that we would probably could use some help just going down the road, looking at that stuff and hacking.
And that would just be more of like an outreach, or is there an element where you, would offer recommendations to the council to consider?
Again, I think it depends. If it's not regulatory, if it doesn't affect, anything that's enforceable or non-enforceable, that kind of thing, it would just be an update to council, and they would probably be glad to see something, right? And they would get their approval. We wouldn't want to do anything. They said, okay, hang on a second. But we'd be working closely with the city manager, sustainability division, and the city manager to look at a list of ideas that we can implement.
So just for reference, so the water rebate programs that we have, we put into the budget. They haven't been separate items. So once that budget's approved by council, we have that money to do the program. So it's.
Yeah, anything that affects somebody's bill.
Yeah.
Or
A raising of rates or something to try and make it.
the rule of law,
Yeah.
you know, that kind of thing. That would have to be realized. Yeah. But yeah, if it's educational, promotional materials and videos and things like that, that would basically be something that would be, unless I'm speaking out of turn, that would be something that the city manager would approve, and probably just simply an update to council, maybe even just a memo format, you know, because they generally be something that would be positive, I think.
John, if hypothetically, if today is the last day of getting it rain for the next 4 months, do we have any water rationing plans or anything like that that the city has adopted, or?
We do have a drought contingency plan, and every city again has to have that also. And there's generally 2 areas from which you would get information and have to implement those steps. One would be internal to the city, in other words, pumping problems. Pump station had a crisis or disaster. And you had to immediately go to a certain stage of your DCP. The other would be if DWU had similar, you'd either have infrastructure issues or if they had capacity issues. All the lakes were down to a certain percentage, and then they put out the call to people to reduce by 5, 10, or 15, or 25% full.
That would include us.
Correct, that would include the customer cities, what they call the wholesale customer cities.
Okay.
Yeah, so that plant already has those provisions in place, yeah.
Do we know what we would do if in fact that were to happen to Farmers Ranch?
Yeah, we have the stages spelled out in our DCP, and luckily right now, the lakes are at 100%, and I think some of them are over 100% capacity right now. So yeah, yes, that's in place. Yeah, Bill, keep your fingers crossed that this is a wetter year than the last two.
Sure.
Are you, oh, go ahead, Al. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask about the acoustic testing. Is that sounding or is that sounding the pipes? So is that a vibrational testing where you're vibrating through and if it comes across as a smooth vibration, you know, you're good, but if it comes across with an anomaly, like a little hitch on it, you know, you probably gotta.
Yeah, this is where I was hoping to have one of my operations guys in to talk about that, because all I know is that they can hear, you know, the sensors can hear the difference. I don't know how that is, but certainly if you've got a crack in the pipe and water leaking out, it's gonna, I mean, you can hear sometimes in your own home. I mean, I had a situation like that,
Where you heard that hiss?
yeah, I had to have somebody go underneath and cut that out. and
Did
fix
you
it.
get a hiss or even worse,
This was a real high, like that, you could hear it through the walls, I mean, under the foundation, from underneath the foundation.
So I had to do, in my previous job, investigations for homes that had like plumbing leaks and stuff like that, and like plumbers will go in with a device that can, almost like a CPR or whatever, but they listen for a sound, because like, turn the water on, obviously, you can, but you shouldn't hear sound. So you hear a sound, and they can kind of go through and see where it, like, how loud it is comparatively, and then kind of points like where it's at.
I would think your word anomaly is pretty accurate, as far as but how that works out in the field. Actually.
Well, probably like sounding concrete when they go with the hammers on the sound test, when they hit with the hammer and they listen to, you see if there's any change in the
Wave pattern.
sound, yeah.
One more question I had, that I know that the city is planning for 15,000 more residents, whether it's to multi-family or new constructions. Are y'all accounting in the next plan for that increase as well? And as you would know, that if you have, whether it's multi-family or single family, you will have runoff issues. So are you all addressing the water runoff issues?
On the stormwater side,
Yeah.
as you know, we do have a stormwater ordinance in place, and there's fees attached to that. Regarding the plans in place for the water system, we do work with engineers. I believe it's every 5 years, they update the water plan for the city, and they look at population trends and what they might need to do to accommodate that, whether it's upsizing a main someplace or from here to here, that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know many details about what their plans are for a given decade in the future, but they do look at that, yes.
Are these plans available that we can see, or they're confidential?
No, I believe a water plan would be publicly available. It may be pretty dry reading, if you'll pardon me.
Yeah.
Great comment.
Table value.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
might have to file a FOIA because it's infrastructure and they might not release some of that information to the layperson.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is some of that. We've been down that road a little bit in the past regarding, especially after 9/11. So we would look at it. If there's any question, it would go through the city secretary's office. City attorney would make a recommendation.
You probably would, since you passed all the background checks, you'd probably be okay with requesting that. So you said we were trending downwards, so we're reaching the threshold, the goals that are being set, or we're
Well,
not? Like, what's our track record?
Well, yes, we're trending downward. To give you an idea, the total GPCD in the area of 2010, 2011, 2012 was up around 290, I believe. And now we're at 225. We've averaged 225 for the last 5 years, and we hit 225 last year. So we're a ways away from 140, as you can imagine. But we're also a different kind of community. We're unique, you know, but anybody can claim that, and everybody's gonna be different, right? So when you start kind of poking around on the internet and seeing what this community is and what that one is, some will be closer to 175. And some are gonna be closer to 225 like us. And their layout might look more like us, with more industry and large multifamily. And we've got a lot of park space too that we need, parks and mediums. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's come down quite a bit. But to give you an idea also, total water usage has come down. We've hit 3 billion gallons a year a couple of times in the past, 2006, 2011. But now we're more like, we've been as low as 2.2 billion, I think. And now we're more like 2.4 to 2.8, somewhere in there. It varies year to year. Dry years, it goes up, right? There's a kind of an inverse correlation with rainfall. And that makes sense. Especially with residential.
Yeah.
Wet
years, you don't pump as much water,
Right. I think,
nor do you use as much electricity.
I think the answer to this is probably gonna be no, but is there any sticks or carrots kind of associated with, hey, you went higher?
Water plan?
Yeah, or no, you,
No, there's no enforcement. Now,
Okay.
if you don't submit a plan,
then there's enforcement.
there is at least gonna be a letter to your city, and then there's going to be, a record that your city did not. And you can look at the state's information, and there are cities that haven't submitted, but some of them may just be late, right? They didn't meet the May 1st deadline, but they still submitted. But no, there's no, it's not enforceable in any ways, but you do have to do it. And what they're doing is they're trying to have everybody take a good look at their system, make a good faith assessment of where they are and where they can improve.
Yeah.
You know?
Gotcha.
Are we doing meter repairs? Are we doing acoustic leak detection and other ways to? And even the guys, when they're just traveling around day to day, if they see something, they're on it. You know? And we have our citizens calling all the time if they. A lot of times it's nothing more than a puddle near the meter, so it's a small situation. But if it ever bubbles up to the street, we get calls right away. So, yeah.
How many water towers do we have here in the streets?
Well, I know I've got the answer right in here. I think we have, we've got Beltmarsh, Westside, Valley View, and Gillis. So that should be 4 elevated tanks. And then for ground storage, we've got 2 at Beltmarsh. We've got 5 million and 1 million. We've got a 5 and a 1 at Wicker. Now, the one caveat is one of the ground storage tanks at Beltmarsh is not online, but it's been updated to where if we had to bring it online, we could.
Okay.
And that was proactive because we knew that the 5 at one point several years back was gonna need some rehab, and we did that. We went through and rehabbed the 5. And we came off and used water out of the 1. So.
I didn't realize we had ground level capacity.
Ground level tanks, ground storage tanks, yeah. Yeah, when you go by the Beltmarsh pump station, you'll see the 5 and then the one sits there almost at grade,
Okay.
right? And you drive north on Marsh. Up there.
When will these smart meters be available for residents?
Yeah.
The portal or the meters themselves. I mean, a lot of meters are in
When can we start?
the ground.
When will they be?
That's the $60,000 question. I don't know the answer to that, but I know they're working on it feverishly because they've also increased the pace at which they're installing these meters and endpoints.
Okay.
So that people can get on it. So.
Yeah, that was a big push from this committee to include that in the sustainability plan. So then I think at that point, Charles Cox also put the revenue money in there.
Yeah.
I think the last I heard they were at 90%. So on the resident. I don't know what the timeline is on the last 10, but we started out at 67%.
Of meters installed,
Of the smart meters installed residentially.
Yeah, they don't need, for the meters themselves, they're just calculating the data and to read it, when it does come online, do you need like a Wi-Fi connection in your house to read that particular meter or?
I couldn't speak to that.
What are you asking? I'm sorry.
The smart meters are almost in, but he said that they're working on getting it so that we can access the data. It's not there yet.
You
They're
have
not
the
sure.
data- you have the data available right now.
No, for your own.
For your own personal home, there is a hub that you have that there's what they call as the interval data, which is every 15 minutes. It sends it to the server. And then the application is integrated with that and the server, you can look. We do it in Electric right now, where every 15 minutes you get that data and it's populated into your customer facing app. It's called the Smart Hub app or something like that. I do it for a living, so
Yeah, okay.
forgive me.
That's all right.
So if we can access that through Smart Hub, then why do we need a city dashboard?
Well, the city dashboard, it gives you the overall view of per gallon per day. But the Smart Hub just gives you yours. And the advantage of that app is suddenly you're using X gallons per day. Unless you have some gas coming up, your usage won't go up. And if there's a leak and you have a spike in that will detect you.
But what I'm saying is that we can just download that ourselves. We don't need the city to have anything. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
But you have to consider the fact that each connection goes to a house and that branches off from the main connection, so like the lines that are underneath, like the alleyways and streets and stuff like that, if they see that in the city's portal, then they can kind of pinpoint where the leaks are there.
I'm not asking about leaks. I'm asking, how do I see how much water my house is?
Oh, okay.
That's all that's.
When the smart meter rollout is complete.
That's going to be what,
Okay, so everybody has to have the smart meter updated and then we'll be able to
Yeah, so
access
because
some
there's-
kind of special app.
there's
That's the goal.
That's
very-
what I
I'll
was-
just in the bathroom.
Yeah, there's a really hefty fee to start that portal. And then if we were to do it now with not everything, then you have to pay it twice.
Right.
essentially, is what
Okay.
I'm told. So,
Gotcha.
so that's why we've accelerated that meter rollout to
Mhm.
get them all out there. And then once there's that 100%, then they can pay that fee one time
To get it
and
all.
then have that access to
Gotcha.
the residents so that you can monitor it like.
I'm not super tech savvy. It's
Yeah.
all the.
So that'll be a fun rollout and then education opportunity for residents too, to show,
Sure.
hey, this is how. If you're gone on vacation, when you get back, check and see if your usage spiked or something like that, then you might know you have a running leak or something like that, if you thought you had everything off.
Gotcha.
and like if you have a leak and suddenly your water bill goes from X dollars to this, but it's 30 days afterwards. Like you're always chasing
Mm-hmm.
30 days, right? You don't have that right now. A lot of these communities that have implemented this technology, people can tell. And that's another way to reduce water usage.
What you really want is several intervals of 0, right? And then you don't have leaks. But if you have no intervals of 0,
What do you mean by intervals of zero?
no consumption.
There's times
Zero
I'm not using
consumption.
water.
So every 15 minutes, like, from 8 to 10, you're gonna take a bath, you're gonna do,
Yeah, about consumption.
you'll have coming up and then it goes 0 and, yeah. I mean, if you want, I can bring my computer and I can show you other customers how you do it.
Any further questions for John?
was very good. Thank you for coming
Yeah.
today.
Glad to be here.
Appreciate your time.
Much appreciated, John.
Thank you. Thank you for the same.
Okay, our next agenda item is receive an update from the committee chairperson. That is me. My story goes back about a year. And I signed up for what's called the Citizens Police Academy here in the Farmers Branch. And it was like 10 weeks or so on Thursday night from 6:30 to 9:30. A lot of effort, time commitment, but thoroughly enjoyed it. You learn everything about what the city is doing, law enforcement. We do a lot of great things. And I'm very proud of our, police department and what they do. And, unsung heroes, they're really doing a great job. Now, I followed that up by joining the Citizens on Patrol, which is another segment on top of that. And this is for people like Al and myself that, we went through that and we ended up doing functions so that police officers wouldn't have to do it. Case in point, house watch. If you're going on vacation and you call up the police department and say, please send somebody out to watch my house, make sure that nothing broken windows or anything like that. Well, instead of sending a police officer out, we would go out. And that frees up the police officers to do more important things, so it's the menial task. And, so that was very good, which I'm glad we did that. And it's because I've gone through the Citizens Police Academy and the Citizens on Patrol and being at the city council meetings, I would be meeting police officers from time to time. And I would invite some of them out and I just asked, do you ever go out for lunch or breakfast? And sometimes they say yes. So I go out and talk to them, over lunch or so, sit, and find out how they're doing. And then, tell them about what I'm doing in life, et cetera, et cetera. Then in January, Chief of Police McCoy requested my presence in his office.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's like being called to the principal's office. But he called me into his office and, was asking me about my chaplaincy experiences over at Clemens Hospital. I said, I'm a volunteer chaplain over there. And he mentioned that he came from Carrollton and they had volunteer chaplains to the police department there in Carrollton, but we don't have any in Farmers Branch. And he asked if I'd be willing to be a chaplain to our police department here in Farmers Branch.
Oh, nice.
And I said, yes.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. So it's he told me the best way to get to know these police officers is to do ride-alongs with them. And since January, I've done 8 ride-alongs so far with different police officers, getting to know them, that they get to know me. And anyway, this has taken up a lot more of my time than I was anticipating. So when my term is up here in June, I'm not coming back for a second-year term. Which means that I'll need to come up with a new chair for next year. I'll be still around for, our May meeting and our June meeting. But want to give everybody a heads up for that.
Well, congratulations and boo.
Yeah.
Sums it up well.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Have you done a whiteout on October 31st?
No, not yet.
You should.
All right.
It's a great ride.
Or a full moon.
Or full moon, yeah. Yeah. Now, that's more of a problem with the fire service. They say that the crazies come out on the full moon.
Well, that may be your next chaplainship is the fire
Yeah,
department.
they already have a chaplain.
Oh, okay.
My
Nice.
son and I did the academy as well, did the fire one also.
Yeah.
Right. Trying to do December 31st.
October 31st. Keep that in mind. To do it or to show it, why that was it.
I was in the car,
Yeah,
police officer, I'm digressing.
no, you're fine. No, that's fine.
I'll say it later.
For our police officers, they use a lot of discretion. If somebody is in code violation, whatever it is, speeding or going through a red light and not stopping, you can get a warning or a citation, which is like a ticket. And then if the tickets are not paid, there's a warrant for that person's arrest. And we have people, COP people, call up these individuals who have a warrant out for their arrest saying, please come in and pay off your tickets, otherwise you are liable possibly to go to jail. And one of my ride-alongs, we stopped a lady in her car and there was a warrant out for her arrest. And the police officer went up to talk to her and chose not to take her to jail because she had her children in the backseat. And yes, that just wouldn't have gone over well. And they do that. Sometimes it depends on a person's attitude. Do not have an attitude if you get stopped and pulled over. Yeah, admit you're wrong and be real pleasant about it. But these are individuals that just have chosen law enforcement as a career. But like us, they have a life outside of what their career is. And they have families, aspirations, relationship issues, maybe some financial issues, but they're real people. And I'm glad to get to know them, and we have some great people here. Any other questions?
So you've been a good chair. Thank you.
Right?
Yeah.
Good job. And I think you kept the group moving. Yeah.
Well, it's been a team effort, but I appreciate what you're saying. Good supporting staff here. Okay. That's it. Let me go on to the next one here. Receive a staff update on sustainability initiatives. Alex.
All right. So tomorrow we'll be meeting with the nonprofit RMI. They are a consultancy and they do a lot of work with energy and environment. So they are going to be providing some pro bono assistance to the city on our landfill solar RFP. The market has kind of changed a lot since we released that. So, but when we're trying to identify a new contractor, we're going to have some of their expertise. They have a partnership also with Kansas State University on their brownfield development. So they're plugged into the space nationally. So they're going to be able to provide us with some guidance, which is nice. Free consulting. We're starting our budget work up, planning for fiscal year 24-25, getting planned expenditures in. So we're working on that as a city. The active transportation plan, March was a busy month for me. I went to P&Z. We obviously had the presentation here, and then Parks and Rec board. So they got updates on our active transportation plan, very similar to the one that y'all had last month. And we've been working on that, getting the outreach out for our upcoming event Wednesday, April 17th, and that's at 6 p.m. at the rec center. So I encourage y'all to attend or invite friends, neighbors, anyone that tries to get around in Farmers Branch.
Alex, I've already done the survey.
Wonderful. Thank you. So you are one of at least, as of the other day, 24 respondents. So
Only 24?
only 24. So yeah,
Survey, one survey.
that's an active transportation survey.
Oh,
God.
The one that Alex
In and
sent you?
Yeah.
Lauren, can you send?
Did you printed it out? And I was gonna ask you if there's any way to get like a
I didn't get it.
4 up or a 6 up of the flyer. I'll print
26.
them out and I'll take them to my neighbors and like with the QR code.
Oh, yeah.
But like printing out a full page,
Yeah, I can get some printouts.
like I can just, like tuck them in the door or whatever if they're not home.
Yeah, so I can get some printouts on that. So we are trying to promote that. We've done a lot of work too, reaching out to different groups like Bike DFW, different those groups. One of the members of the Planning and Zoning Commission is like a Facebook member of a lot of those cycling groups. So he's kind of put the word out on their social media. So we're really trying to get as many people aware of that. For that public input event, that's gonna be led by our consultants on that. We will have English and Spanish boards and staff, both, I think, actually it'll probably just be staff from the consulting company that are bilingual as well. So hopefully we get some good feedback from people and identify some areas where people would feel safer or where they want to be able to walk or bike, kind of what their preferences are. Some of the boards that we have the different types of bike facilities, so people can say, hey, I'm really comfortable biking on this. I'm not comfortable biking on this. So kind of identifying where our residents' comfort level is. So we know, hey, if we actually had something that was maybe a striped bike lane, we know that more people would be likely to use that. compared to the sheriffs or something like that. So,
Do they have to live in Farmers Branch to do the survey? Cause I know on there it was the questions will work.
so no, you shouldn't have to live in Farmers Branch. You might have to register with Polco, like,
Okay.
you know, sign up for that. But, we are curious too because there's a good portion, you know, or high population of people that work here. Like our daytime population is much higher than our nighttime. So, there are a lot of people that might not live in Farmers Branch, but drive here, work here, you know, some need to get around in Farmers Branch. So, anyone that, you know, live, work, play in Farmers Branch, we want to hear from them.
So what's the internal push to get like staff, the fire department, the police department, the people at the rec center, like get them all to participate in is there any internal push to?
So that's a tough one because it's like we want people that work here to, or, you know, take the survey, but you also don't want 100 city staffers to be
Sure.
putting kind of, I hate to say, like finger on the scale. on stuff.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
I have withheld from taking the survey kind of for that reason. So there's not really a push for internal. We
Okay.
want more, you know, more members of the community, but we also, you know, we do recognize that there are people that maybe live right outside Farmers Branch, but the majority of their commute, or, you know, they could walk here or bike here if the facilities were available. And that's a big thing too, when we think about our trails and our connections are where do the trails go with other cities? So like connecting to the West Side Art Trail to the Campion Trail in Irving, that's, you know, a goal there. You know, where the connections are with Dallas to our south, with Addison's trails that they're building. So we do think about those, but yeah, there's not so much an internal push from a staff perspective.
Is there still that walking path over 635?
I believe so.
Like right there at the end of, yeah, where that dead ends right there off of Valley View and kind of down by where the community.
I know what you're talking about. I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so going down, last week I attended a climate and resilience conference, at the convention center in Dallas. So that was it was interesting. It had a lot of different people there. So, universities, there was a lot of updates on climate science data. Texas Trees Foundation, who we partner with for our tree giveaway, they had a presentation on one of the projects they're working on in the Southwest Medical District. They're working on developing a park over the intersection of Harry Hines and Idwood. So that's in Dallas, but, you know, kind of building an elevated park that's somewhat like Clyde Warren, but botanical.
Wow.
So, you know, because they're really focused on urban heat island and, you know, that area.
Most
And the medical-
concrete in the
yeah.
city.
Exactly, yeah. One of the hottest areas is, yeah, most concrete, and it's right in the medical district. There were some panels, University of Texas at Dallas has done a lot of research on air quality, particularly on PM 2.5, which is the particulate matter, the really, really, really small stuff that can get into lungs and cause issues with asthma. They've got a variety of different sensors that they're doing, so that was cool. Lots of federal funding out there right now. Federal funding is difficult. There's a lot of strings attached, but it is great. We are in a very unprecedented level with the amount of funding coming from the federal government. So, obviously we're working on that. We're utilizing some of that through Department of Energy to purchase some EVs. There's more that it'll be continually trickling down. So trying to make sure that we have the capacity to, and the projects to utilize that. And then I sent everyone an email, about the U.S. Green Building Council, the LEED for cities. If you're familiar with the LEED buildings, that's a rating system for how sustainable a building is. They have one for cities on sustainability. So it's kind of like different requirements to get points in categories. So that is something that we're looking into. They're doing an accelerator program for Texas cities. So I'm hoping that we can participate in that. There'll be a lot of record keeping and work, data collection, but it gives us the opportunity to get recognition for the work that we're already doing and to identify the areas that we're not doing enough based on their rating. So it'll provide some kind of gap analysis. And the nice thing is Mayor Lynn was in attendance for that. So he was actually the only elected official there. So he got to kind of see inside the sustainability world there. So I appreciated that he was there for that. Irrigation checkup, our rebate program that we recently launched. All of the outreach has been submitted. It'll slowly start going through the process on when they have availability on their Facebook posts and Nextdoor. But people are already finding out about it. We had 2 applications. I have not reviewed them yet, but we had 2 applications yet already. So I'm sure as we get more and more outreach, our Earth Day messaging focuses on that, compost and renewable power. So we'll have that go out. Water rebates on the toilet side, we have 83 total rebates that we processed since we started that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so when, I'll pull the actual numbers, but when you look at it on a gallon basis, because it, like every year, the savings compound, or not compound, but they, continue to add up. It's a pretty big number when I looked at it last. So even though 83 toilets doesn't sound like much, toilets get flushed multiple times a day. There's significant water savings with that program. Soul Smart, we have talked about before. That's a designation that identifies how well cities remove red tape around installing solar, have programs about, to help advance solar in their communities. We're participating in a local cohort with North Texas cities. So hopefully we will get recognition on that. I'm not sure what level of the rating that we'll get, but we're moving forward with that. We've got our planning department and our community services, which is our building official, building inspections on board. So moving forward with that, we've done a lot of work with solar, both on our buildings and with our solar switch program. So hopefully we'll be having some plaques that, we'll do council presentations and have the committee come up and show some accomplishments. Speaking of city council, next Tuesday, April 16th, the Lights Out proclamation that you voted on last meeting will be a ceremonial item on the agenda. So if you would like to attend, it'd be great to have some members there. The meeting starts at 6 p.m. Ceremonial items are at the very beginning. There's a great photo, I think, of Al, Joseph, and Lauren from last year with the signs with the mayor. So we encourage as many of you to come if possible for that proclamation. And then we'll be doing our outreach focused around the Lights Out initiative and putting the signs out in the community.
Excuse me, was that April 16th?
Tuesday, April 16th.
And are we getting any new signs or are we just having the same signs?
I just have the same signs for now, but I also bought extras when we first did. So
Yeah.
I've got the ones that have gotten tore up by a weed eater. We'll probably just put them at the same buildings, but they'll be newer. So
Those multicultural event signs with the little QR codes that were like sandwich boards in front of the library and the rec center were sweet.
I need to find out where they got those. It wouldn't be probably in time for this, but for our fall migration. So those were in front of the library. Okay.
And I think there was one at the rec center too. I don't remember, but it was just like, it was like the sandwich boards out at the recycle center.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But it just had like a really, colorful,
Yeah, the larger.
with the QR code that takes you to the.
I know which ones you're talking about. Now. Okay, perfect. And then let's see, last couple things. Yesterday and today, I went to Parish Episcopal, just right up the road. And I spoke to 7th and 8th graders that are in a sustainable architecture class. So the instructor reached out to me, asked if I could come talk to the students. So they had 2 sections, I guess, Monday, Wednesday, Friday or whatever. But so it's 2 different groups. I went out today and yesterday. So I spoke to about 50 7th and 8th graders. They're learning about a lot of these environmental issues. So I talked about, everything from what we're doing in the city, we're tied in the sustainable architecture piece, talked a lot about our solar. I even had the graph of our solar output during the solar eclipse, so you can see it drop. So it was a good group of students. They were really engaged. So it was actually the first time I've been do a presentation in a school since COVID. So I was probably a little bit rusty, but I think the kids enjoyed it. It was good outreach, starting on the youth. So getting them focused on the environment. So that was good. Next meeting, May 8th, and I'll actually be on vacation from right before. Basically, I come back and have a day and then it's our meeting. So the agenda for May will probably be posted April 24th or so.
Is that technically Farmers Branch or is it?
Yeah, it's technically in Farmers Branch.
Okay.
A lot of the students don't live in Farmers Branch.
Right.
But so
Nice.
But yeah, so that was good.
So Alex, maybe you were mentioning, I wasn't paying attention, but, when are we presenting to the city council?
For the lights out proclamation,
No, for what our sustainability committee is doing.
I believe it'll be November or December. They
Once this
changed.
year now.
Yeah, they changed it to once a year.
Once a year.
Yeah, so all boards will present, I think it's half of them will present in November and half of them will present in December.
Okay.
So,
Any updates on our solar farm, find another developer?
so that's where we're gonna meet with the group tomorrow. They're gonna help us refine our RFP before release. And so we have to release that, provide kind of a little bit starting over as far as the procurement stuff, because we have to go through all the government hoops to make sure that we're providing all that information, and time, enough time for people to respond and all of that. But once we select a vendor, that process will be a lot faster than last time since so much work has already been done. So it'll be slow and then hopefully fast.
Are you estimating how much electricity you're gonna produce?
Yeah, so with the updated engineering drawings that the last consultant did, we were, I want to say 8.6 million kilowatt hours. So that's about 2/3 of our city usage. One of the things that we can look at is other city properties. So if there's closed portions of Camelot landfill that they would be willing to build on, then maybe that could take us to 100. But the main portion is getting that set done, and then we would combine it with our regular contract. And we would want to make sure that the remainder of that contract, so we're buying, let's say 2/3 of our power from the solar farm, 1/3 from the grid. We want to make sure that's also renewable, preferably Texas renewable as well. And so, yeah, it might not be 100% renewable in boundary, but 2/3 is in boundary. The other third is also 100% renewable. So that's the goal with that one.
Do you know that, that section right along 635 and the access road between Webb Chapel and Josie, where they're piling all the dirt for the construction what do they do with that when that's done?
So it's TxDOT owned land, and I know that's been a point of contention with all the dust and everything on that. I don't know when they're done with storing the materials there and they finish the highway expansion, what TxDOT's plans for that property are.
They're probably gonna hold on to it for the I-35, 635 interchange project, and that's gonna be another while.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
They're gonna redo the whole interchange, make sure that if you're going east to west, like on the frontage roads, that you can actually go through instead of having to go cut around Harry Hines and back through, making sure that they come in the streams, the pedestrians, your different tiers.
Oh, I just want better buses, man. That's fun.
Yeah, that's gonna be a tricky project.
I just want better buses.
The other thing is there's a huge gas line that runs that property.
That's what I heard too.
Yeah, so that'll be a difficult property to sell until they're completely done, able to rip everything up.
Yeah, that's what I heard. That's why I was like, why not big solar field?
Our next agenda item is receive an update on the result of the Compass survey.
Great. Can you do me a favor, that power button on that little black control panel, can you hit that? Share the screen
There were some that working on the
Oh, yeah, I was out there. Yeah, I have a few hundred. Really good. I thought they did a good job.
Nice.
Sorry for the recording, I have to share the screen to.
No, I want to-
It takes me a while.
I live in a Dothan Valley View. So, right by the Rock.
Oh.
All right, we are good to go now. Our compost survey. So thank you to the Built Natural Environment Subcommittee. They created this survey to identify barriers to composting. We released that on January 24th. So all residents that had already signed up with Polco got a notification that a survey was available. We promoted it. This was screenshots from the main page of the website on the banner. We had it go in e-news, all of our other, electronic outreach, council updates. And then we actually had 213 responses, so I'm confused why we haven't had that many on active transportation. The only thing I can think of is we had this one. They had other ones for emergency, the North Texas emergency thing, communications. And then this one, so I don't know, if people are getting a little bit of survey fatigue or not, but
Compost is a hot topic.
compost is, maybe it is the hot topic of our time, so.
How long was it open?
It was open, I believe, until February, or not February, like most March.
March. Okay.
So I think it was open for about a month. I'd have to look back and see exactly when they closed it, but it was open for a while. But we did have like a pretty big chunk of people do that really quick. So I want to say like within the first 2 days, we had over 100 people, and then like 2 weeks, we were probably, I think, at 190. So, hopefully with our active transportation one, as more of our social media outreach and different things go out, hopefully we'll get those QR codes on the screens. We'll see. And then people can take it after the event as well. So that's sidebar, but, back to compost. So I have the results from, it was a 4-question thing. So this is it's not great.
Oh, heartbreaking.
So
I don't wanna look at that.
what this one told me is we really need to advertise Citizen Collection Center as a drop off for food waste. That we only had 8 people say that they take it there. Composting at home, I was actually thought that was not terrible that we had 40 people that compost at home. Although if you compost at home, you're probably more likely to take a compost survey. So, yeah. So I mean, you never know. But so that kind of tells us that there's a lot of room for improvement on compost.
Okay, can you answer the question why it adds up to more than 213?
So on this one, I'm trying to remember if it allowed people to pick more than one response. So some people said, I compost at home, but I eat in the trash or something like that.
Right,
So,
because you can't put that in the backyard bin.
yeah, so I think on that one, it's because they allow, for.
I think it
multiple
did say all that applied.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, here were the barriers that people said for why they didn't compost. The inconvenient locations, I understand that for collection center, that's on far side of town. And then, lack of space was actually not that big of an issue. So the unsure of what materials, that one being, one of the higher ones, I feel like that's an opportunity for education and outreach. To let people know what they can do. We've already talked about trying to have some sort of like compost, workshop in the fall. And I would hope that would also kind of reach the too difficult. You provide a resource for people and then put some alleviation on concerns about odors or pests. So most backyard, compost, you don't want to put a lot of like animal products, different stuff like that. Some people that maybe didn't know that started a compost bin and you attract vermin. That's a pretty big way to get discouraged from it. So there's the information there on that. Primary motivators. This is another one people could pick more than one response. So having a positive impact being the leader, I thought that was pretty interesting.
Very.
I would have really thought of it like the nutrient soil, like basically, I don't want to buy compost for the store. I want to make my own, but
Or the people worried about having to pay for landfills, like
yeah,
garbage collection, that's a big motivator. I would have thought.
I would have thought so too, because that's kind of what we hear a lot at council meetings and different things is extending life of the landfill. But just having a positive impact. I thought that was encouraging that people, even though there might be obstacles for them to do this, they want to do the right thing.
I
So
would say, because I'm looking at the numbers too, this didn't have any branching logic in it, right? So like if people said, no, I don't do it because I don't want to, and I don't need to.
yeah, because we said the what are or would be. So like
Okay.
if you didn't do it, what would be your
Okay,
motivator?
I was trying to remember if we had included that or not. So-
Yeah, we didn't include the logic on
So
this one.
interesting.
And then specific topics, so learning about composting methods and techniques. I think having a workshop would help with that. For apartments and small space living, I mean, there's limited, you can do vermicomposting, which is you have your bin with your worms. I've seen classes taught on that. That's a big endeavor to get into. So but people do it. But maybe so we focus on those that have the backyard, and then if you have the apartments or small space, maybe that's where you learn about the drop-off site.
I mean, that's the second biggest one. So I mean, conceivably, even people that live in houses would be more inclined to use it if they had known about the drop-off service or something like that. I mean, like I use it because it's so convenient. I can just like scrape my plate off and then go. I don't have to think about, oh, wait, let me take this off because it has butter in it or whatever. You know, even though it's not super convenient for the dropping off, it's more convenient actually at home, in my opinion. But that's nice that that's a big one. That's the second biggest one, I think.
So my plan will be to work and see if we can get a composting workshop going in the fall. And so, advertise that and then have some continued outreach. I already mentioned our Earth Day thing. That's like 3 things that we want people to look at. And it's our water rebates, composting at the sea, and then renewable energy with power switch. So, I think that's kind of the start here. If there's any discussion on this, let me know.
Okay, so Bill Glancy came to Brookhaven 2 weeks ago and met with me and a couple other people on the sustainability team about the mulching
Nice.
Prospect. And it was, well received, but they want to get research on it. Because the concern is about leaching, because he's bringing up a lot of like plastic included. So, currently the stage is that they're reaching out to the AgriLife building to see if there are some students who would want to use it as a project. And then we would be okay with having a few test plots if they would come do that. And he said he'll get the fire department to come water them. So I thought that was a nice little thing for him to say. But we're thinking maybe 3 or 4 plots, and then different mixtures and see what we got. So that's kind of related. What he described, he kept using the word mulch, but it sounds like compost. Because he's talking about it being digested. So
I'm gonna meet with him on Tuesday,
Okay.
to see if we can kind of refine what he brought to the group and maybe have him come back in May with a little bit more concise vision of what he's looking at. There's been talks for a long time about trying to get composting at Camelot landfill. Because, there's space out there, it's next to the landfill. I think he brought that up, but a lot of it's in the floodplain. There's a big cost associated with that, and we would need the quantity from other cities. Which is great, because I'd rather, instead of Carrollton's leaves and branches going into our landfill, have it be composted there. But if that raises Carrollton's rates really high, they might not want to do it. So there's a lot of obstacles with that, but we'll probably have him back and see if we have a little bit more, thought on that. And then it might not really involve this committee, but we'll see.
is there something that we could do to encourage bringing back the paper bags for lawn trimmings?
For lawn trimmings, potentially.
Because this
They
is-
pick up with the green grabber right now, so that's an obstacle. If you fill bags with leaves, they pick up with the grabber, it would rip the bags, because then they pick up the brush that way. But we are working to try and figure out something for leaves, like to get leaves picked up. Because we've all talked about that. It's a terrible pet peeve where we put leaves in plastic bags, so.
Hey, Tyler, good question though.
Or even in the paper bags, they put them out on trash day. But they still go to the,
Or.
my neighbors.
Yeah.
Is that something that can't be like composted or like put in, or is it just gonna like spread?
Alex, I have a question for you. I know at one point we talked
How
about
much digestion you're gonna do.
taking a snapshot in time of like
A lot.
data or tonnage collected at the CCC and looking like after these workshops, awareness, whatever, then doing another snapshot of that.
Yes.
Can we tie that like with a post survey?
That was the thought, that we'll try and do a post survey.
Yeah. Is that
I would definitely like to do a post survey. I'm worried people are starting to get surveyed out a little bit, but I would like that, the plan was to do the post survey and have the before and after data as
Yeah.
we do increased outreach on this.
Okay. Do you get the information about who participated, like contact information?
I don't know if we do the contact, I'll have to read through the report, but they do break down the information based on like council district, gender, age. You
I'm
know,
just thinking for all the people that said they didn't even know that the CCC existed, like, we could just send them
yeah,
just like a mailer with like, look, here you can, like, all the respondents, like, here's the information that might be important to you, and you took part of the survey, so we wanted to reach out and,
I'll look into see if that's
Whatever.
an option.
I mean, I'm not talking about like stalking them or anything, but
Yeah,
Could we also say going forward, if we're offering surveys on things that are already there, when they're filling out the survey, we can click through to information on that?
yeah, we could.
That's like a standard operating procedure.
but Polko is like a third party
Yeah, and part of the
Survey
reason that they
provider.
switched to that is because it does have a level of like verification, so you don't have some people spamming the whole thing.
Right.
So that's the reason, or one of the main reasons they've moved to that. So it makes it a little bit more complex, and there's some registration that comes with it, but you hopefully don't have people gaming the system by putting
Right.
in, we don't compost ever 1,000 times.
Right.
Be surprised. One of the other things on question one, which was like, what do you do with your food waste? Feed to chickens was one of the other ones. So people that have
Yeah.
backyard chickens. So
Nice.
So I thought that was an interesting thing.
It's really interesting.
Thank you, Alex.
You're welcome.
Our next agenda item is receive subcommittee updates, built natural environment.
So we worked asynchronously and had some discussion, but Alex covered actually a lot of the points I would say we're gonna make. So I think the only thing we would be interested to is just like that educational piece. Like, I know we have the website and it was going through some beautification, if you will. So I don't know if you need us to pull together some resources, that links, videos, whatever, to put on that webpage. Just let us know, we can do that. And then also if there's another tabling opportunity, or something like that where we can do some education.
Plus the last item that you said, the raffling.
Yes, thank you. And then, as an incentive for the workshop, I don't know if we could raffle off, like,
Yeah, we
if
can
you
definitely
attend this
do.
workshop.
Yeah, we can either do a raffle or we can see if we can do it like a reduced price bin or something. So,
Yeah.
and that would be, I mean, there's probably ways that we could do it too, where maybe if we wanted to charge a fee for the workshop, it includes a free compost or
Yeah.
free, I mean, you're paying.
Materials
Yeah.
provided.
So yeah, your registration basically covers the cost of the compost bin.
I have a suggestion. though.
Yes,
If you really want people to read some of this stuff, mayor sends out a newsletter.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of readers that read it. That's one way to do it, and the other way is there's someone called Kate, she's starting a Branch Herald or something.
Yeah, the Branch Herald.
Newsletter. So those are some of the places where you might be able to get more participation and more media sort of.
what was the second one?
Branch Herald.
Branch Herald,
Okay, I had not heard.
She contacted me at
Kate, what's her
school.
name? I forget her last name.
Kate Bergeron.
Bergeron, yeah. She was at the multicultural, and they had a booth, so. they're
You want me to
doing-
forward this to you?
If
Interesting.
you don't mind, that'd be great. Thank
Oh,
you.
and there's the other neighborhood newsletter that the one lady sends out. Kathleen Matsumoto.
I don't think she's done it in a while, has she?
No, she's still doing it.
Yeah, she doesn't. Yeah, I got one last week.
Who are these people?
I-
I've never even heard of her. You're Miss Farmer's.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Messing with my
I
brand.
just interrupted. I in here.
Yeah, Kate's at all the
Everybody's
council meetings. So we can go to a council meeting.
I mean, I get the council meetings and study session meetings, and, but I mean, they don't introduce the people that show up repeatedly, they just are there.
Oh, she's usually at the door as you're walking in.
So,
Have you ever heard of the Branch Herald?
huh. I usually like to
Yeah.
sneak in,
She's pretty
raise
aggressive.
a ruckus.
She's pretty aggressive. We meet her every 2 weeks. We meet for breakfast over there at, Toasties or, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm. Alex, at your active transportation meeting next week, could we have some flyers and stuff to give people about composting, citizen collection center?
Yeah, I think we can have some of that there and have our magnets and some of the other giveaways. I think that'd be good.
Okay.
It's a good idea.
Good call.
Thank you all for what you're doing. Communications.
Well, since I was not saved the seat at our table at the banquet, and I sat with the staff and said, I met Megan, who is in charge of the special events. And the next special events is the Denton Drive Live, so there's one on Friday. And I have to let her know tomorrow morning if we would like to have a table there on Friday. So if anybody would like to volunteer, do we have to have a certain number of volunteers to do it? Or can just one person do it, or?
I mean, I guess it really just depends on the
Well,
amount.
I will go.
Hold on, I'm looking.
Okay,
We have.
or it's Friday.
Oh, have we set up?
Yeah, I just have, what I'm saying is, she doesn't need a lot of lead time, so we can, like, this first one's tomorrow, on Friday, and then the next one.
Wednesday, so.
But I mean, she doesn't need like a week in
Yeah.
advance notice for us to have a table.
I might need a little
Well,
more notice on getting.
Yeah, don't volunteers have to go through that?
Well, if you've already done a volunteer form, so that's separate, so if you volunteer at like tree giveaway or shredding, then you're good. We should probably, everyone
Just
should just
have-
fill that out. It's weird that that doesn't include, or isn't included in your background check for the committee.
That is weird.
Are we
But
good for a year?
I think they last for a couple years,
Okay.
so.
Well, the next one's May 11th, June 1st, July 13th, the calendars. Basically, we just need to give her notice on Thursday morning before the Friday show if we want to have a table there. So you don't have to commit 3 months in advance. We can just, I can be like, hey, I'm going, and then I don't know how we want to do that because we can't have a quorum, but we don't need to set it up months in advance is my point. So if I'm allowed to go on Friday, Alex, I don't know if
I don't think I'll have the time to pull all the giveaways together.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
Okay,
so a future one would probably be better.
better. Okay.
What are the dates of those again? Coming up?
May 11th, June 1, July 13th. I guess I should have told you on Saturday when she told me.
See what I can put together for the May 11th to do first, for sure. I can get the boxes packed up.
I mean, so we don't have all of it just kind of ready, like from when Alexa did it, or?
There's some of it, our flyer needs to be updated. We do have the giveaways, all of our magnets and the different stuff like that. We have that.
Do we have any more of the fans, or did she give us all?
We are out of fans, so we'll have to get more of those printed.
So they having like the regular farmers markets?
They stopped doing the farmers markets because they didn't have enough attendance.
Okay.
So they do it like at the holiday, like they do like Santa's Christmas
Right.
craft fair or whatever. But since Denton Drive is closed down, they're actually doing it at the historical park. They're not doing it at the Grove
Oh, okay.
because it's all torn up right now.
It's
So
like,
that's a no for this Friday.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be able to.
Okay. I didn't expect that you're already trying to get out your
Actually, no,
secretary.
that's the only Friday where it's like, I look at my calendar, there's nothing going on.
You actually could have done it.
I actually could have done it, yeah. And I was like, oh, and then they're like, no, I was like, oh.
Was Denton Drive on Saturday nights or Friday nights?
Oh, Saturdays, isn't it? Not Friday.
it's Saturdays.
It's Saturday. You're right. 13th is Saturday.
I want to be.
I'm sorry.
It's not very late, really.
I thought it was Friday.
Does it start time like 3, 4?
It starts at 6 and the only thing they ask is we stay till it's over. So from like 6 to 10 or 6 to 9:30 or whatever,
Right.
like 5:30 to 9:30, whatever the time frame is. But you get to listen to some good tunes.
I think it's a Beatles cover.
The Elton Johns and the Hard Night's Day or something like that. Yes, it's the British invasion. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you, communications, Lisa. How about water conservation?
This is not related to water conservation. But this is something that I think the Sustainability Committee needs to consider. Of course, Mayor Glancy, I met him too, and he's very excited about what's going on with the Brookhaven College, which is, I think it impacts water runoff. And that's important. I was talking to Terry at breakfast, and he mentioned something that he really thinks that we need to focus on, and that was in the city of Farmers Branch, the green grabber grabs all the shrubs and stuff, and whole earth just shreds it out, and it does not go into the landfill. But there are other cities that use our landfill. They are actually using our landfill for the shrubs, and it takes up a lot more space.
Yeah.
It doesn't decompose so easily. So what he was talking about was we need to focus and work with the city on developing a program or some sort of a penalty or something. We just have to put structure behind it and get involved because at the end of the day, when we close down the landfill, it's going to cost us $34 million. And we are starting to charge people $2 or something for water bill now. Like, so the more we can extend the life of the landfill, the better it is for the residents. And it's going to require, get a vendor who will put the machine right there at the landfill for mulching. And it relates to the same thing that Mayor Glancy is doing, which is using plastics or paper to be able to create mulch. So I think that's something that we need. I don't even know where to start, Alex, but it's something that I'm very interested in doing.
I will start talking with our solid waste manager and Shane to see what our current agreements, what all is entailed in that, to see if there's any mechanisms that we would have to encourage them to divert that, whether it's charging more or restricting, taking organics, different things like that. So I will start there and get back with you.
It seems like when Shane was here, he mentioned, because we have a third party vendor that manages it, Republic.
Yeah.
And then Republic has contracts with, or does the city have contracts with the Farmers Branch, or I mean Carrollton and Louisville and whomever?
So that's a great question.
I just seem to remember him saying when we brought this up before that it's not so much like we have direct control over being able to do that. Republic runs it for us.
Yeah, they run
And
that.
then they have contracts with the cities that they have contracts with. So-
Yeah, or if they don't have contracts, it's kind of an open market kind of thing. So,
Right,
they could take the waste to McComas Bluff landfill in Dallas if let's say the tipping fee is cheaper there, but they have to justify the drive down
right.
there. So I don't know if they have contracts with all the cities. I don't think they do with all the private vendors and, haulers, but that might be something where if we have the contract with Republic, they probably don't want to restrict materials. Now, contracts can all be negotiated, altered.
So maybe that's the first thing, is that we need to make sure we don't have an exclusivity, right? Or if there is, strip it away as quickly as we can, if we can, or if not, apply some sort of pressure to say, well, you need to do this if you're not going to remove
Well,
exclusivity.
Terry wouldn't bring it up. He didn't think there would.
Well, no, I'm just saying, I think that there's some, this is a conversation that we've had already internally before Maryland expressed interest in it, of how do we, since the city, our own city is only 3% of what's getting dumped there, then how do we influence the 97% that And part of the reason why residents haven't paid for so long was because of the profit we were making off of all those other cities. So if you start penalizing them for dumping and then they go someplace else, then you're still back at the same thing where residents are gonna end up having to not have the service. I'm
But
just saying, there's a lot of moving
you
parts.
push out closing the landfill, the less cities are
Then-
involved.
That's true. I mean, I'm not saying there's no benefits to all of those.
It's hard
things.
to
I'm just
evaluate,
saying it's a
yeah.
lot of moving
It's gonna
parts.
cost a resident $40 a month when we close out the landfill. That's why they're starting the process of charging now.
Right. No, I understand all that.
So if you look at the square footage that shrubs are taking versus the trash, the compact trash, right? My whole thing is, if he's telling me, and hey, you guys need to really think about this, there's something percolating in his mind as to the value of sustainability and what kind of impact he can really have. So
Hypothetically, like if Carrollton got a green grabber, could they park their stuff to like where our green grabber goes?
Yeah, they could identify, I mean, we just have a contract with Living Earth to take our stuff
Yeah.
and we pay them on I don't know if it's a tonnage or cubic yard rate so, we pay them essentially a tipping fee for all of our brush. So
Yeah.
Carrollton could do that. Actually, is Carrollton?
I've just used whoever's closest. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
I'm trying to think if they have an agreement already with someone. Like, trying to think, there's a North Texas Municipal Water District group that has composting, but I don't know if Carrollton's in that.
That
Anyway,
could be a
something-
way that y'all can bring back those trash bags, because if the city, like participating cities sign up for it, then you give those bags to the people so that they know to put what in there, and
Yeah.
then like, that someone can quickly look and see if it's actual trash or if it's, stuff that needs to be like wood chip or whatever.
yeah, this is important because it impacts all of us who are going to live in Palmer's, right? 20 years, I'll be dead by then, but
I'm wondering too, I'm assuming that there's probably like a get together of the mayors occasionally.
they do.
Okay.
They do, all four of them get together.
So I'm wondering. if we
Carrollton,
can talk about it.
Coppell, Palmer's Branch and Addison, so they do get together. One of the important thing about that is because Terry does have influence.
Mhm.
And he does communicate a lot with these guys, so,
I wonder if they can maybe even start some conversations in that group.
yeah.
I'm sure, I think there have
Sure,
been
they already
some
started.
preliminary ones. That's what I've been told, but I think they kind of ran into some of it wasn't an easy thing, so like, with the floodplain and the kind of costs that would be associated. Cause then you would have to have, we have the contract with Republic to run the landfill operations. You would essentially have to have a contract with another vendor, whether that's the same one we use now at the landfill site. And then I think one of the stipulations for them to take that is that they have to kind of have a guaranteed tonnage so they can turn around and make that profit. So, if it's too small, it's not worth it for them.
It's a lot of money that the vendor has to,
Mhm.
Infrastructure, put in infrastructure, equipment, get electricity on the shredding part of it. And that's why the project is going to require a lot of help from the city staff, and then we can work as a committee to start putting some teeth together and work and give the mayor some real analysis on what is current state of affairs. When will the landfill close? If we can extend the life of the landfill, the value for the citizens of Farmers Branch and also the others, because they're gonna have to haul this thing somewhere else. Right, so there's definitely a business case to be built around that, and the fact that he's talking to someone from the sustainability committee means that he's really interested in it.
One of the mechanisms that we talked about at the college was, well, who says this is mulch worthy? And so the idea was, well, maybe the land or I guess for us it'd be Parks and Rec in the city, but for individual homeowners, it would be whoever they have, the lawn ranger or whatever company they have. So maybe there would be some sort of incentive to that company to be involved in trucking it. And then they would be a preferred something. I don't know what kind of embezzlement rules there are, but maybe there's some sort of a gold star we can give them because we know that this one will, take all the lawn clippings and take them to this place. Something like that, because that's the concern that was raised at the college was, well, how do we know what it will be? How do we control that? Obviously we're gonna get good stuff whenever all the leaves fall, or even in the spring when they're cleaning up the leaves, but, do we really want acreage of ground up thistles? Like what's the real play? How does it look?
Or if it's diseased or like there is some,
Yeah.
there are some concerns that. But a place like Living Earth, they're professionals, that's what they do. So like with that kind of a contract, but I mean, I don't know how well they inspect what they're getting either, so. It would be interesting to know like what other cities are currently paying, like what their residents are currently paying for the trash collections, the ones that dump at our facility anyway.
Hmm.
And I think they just did that analysis when they enacted the fee for
If
ours.
it's a
So,
flat rate or if it's a,
yeah, we can look and see what other cities pay. I think they already did that when they got that to council.
So essentially, Alex, this would be a good thing to get involved in.
I think, our next meeting agenda will have a lot of talk on the compost
Yeah.
operation and different things. So,
and y'all keep track of how much we've diverted on our own,
yes.
like brush and whatever.
Yeah, so we keep track of our brush diversion and what we collect at the.
Do we have that
collection
like
center.
over time?
Yes.
So we can see from before they did the pickup separation, because before it was, everybody could put everything out at the same time and it wasn't, but then we separated it out where bulk is different than brush. So like,
Yeah.
we can look at those numbers.
And if there's any sort of resistance to re-implementing the paper bags, I guess we would like to know what they are, so we can try and brainstorm solutions for those concerned.
Paper bags for trash or for like trimmings and leaves?
For whatever would be mulchable compost, but,
For organic.
How long do they keep the city council meetings on file, the video, the archived?
they're usually on YouTube.
Yeah, you can go back.
It's like, I'm.
I would recommend going back to the year when they implemented the trash bins, if you really want to see what's going on with that paper bag conversation, because it was a huge deal, a huge deal. Like a 3-hour town hall meeting, people talking for like 3 hours at shame about the paper bag
It's amazing.
versus the trash bin. I did not realize it was such a hot button topic. I went and I was like, oh, this is interesting. What are we doing? And I was there until 10 o'clock listening to people talk about trash, but the paper trash bags.
So the only argument I heard against them was that someone said, well, it's an extra 2 mils thick, so therefore it will fill the landfill faster.
Oh, no, there's
Paper bags.
There was way more
plenty
negatives.
of information about it.
Can you just give me like a rundown?
People just don't, that you can't put anything wet in them. They disintegrate, they're,
Someone's dog gets into it.
it tears it up, the vermin get into it.
They do long
I mean,
things?
People don't just put long people.
Oh.
But people
And so
don't
they
just
knock
put
'em
long
over
things.
They
Yeah.
put a T-bone
Or if it
bone.
rains, or if it's wet, or they put in a 2x4, not just their, lawn clippings. It's just kind of like this whole.
Well, then maybe that goes back to the mechanism of you have the lawn care, service company and give them the paper bags. Cause at least you know what's going in there.
I mean, I don't disagree. It's just, I'm just saying, it's a little bit more nuanced than just like bring back the paper bags. It was a huge thing.
Cause what I'm thinking is like, okay, businesses all have contracts. A lot of individual residents have contracts. So if those things are being done by groups of people on a regular basis, they're probably generating the majority of what goes in the landfill. Right? So we should probably stop it there. Because they're probably producing the most that goes there.
I mean, if we're gonna do that, we just get people to stop bagging their lawn clippings. It's better for your yard anyway.
Have y'all heard of the leaf burrito?
The leaf burrito?
I'm gonna send you information, you can just donate to them, but it's basically like another bag thing that eats the, instead of the plastic bin that we have, it's like a bag that is reused by the homeowner and whoever's like dumping out the leaf garbage, whatever. I was just reasoning her out. That was kind of interesting, but I figured it'd probably get tossed a bunch.
A leaf burrito.
Yeah, it's weird.
I didn't think it was gonna be such a hot topic.
That's what I thought when I was.
We'll have plenty of discussion next month.
We're here because of you.
All right, moving right along. Next agenda items, receive an update from committee members on activities attended.
I get the update. This is the first update I'm giving.
All right.
I did meet with Clancy and he educated me on paper, a lot of stuff about paper and the law that is changing in California, how he believes that,
Oh, you were here for that one?
no, I was here for that, but I
But you met with him
also
again.
met him.
More ornery in a small room.
Yeah, so I met him. And I think there's some, lot of validity to what he's trying to test. As far as runoff water, think about runoff water is a big deal
Yeah.
in the cities. So, that's my update, is that I got educated by their Clancy on the paper and what he's trying to do.
I went to the committee function dinner. It was lovely. The music was great. It was great.
The wine was expensive there.
How much are they charging for wine there?
15
What?
Oh my God.
I think I know.
Volunteer appreciation.
Yeah.
By the way, here's.
Bring your flask.
What?
I've drank the park.
No, this is only water in my cup. It is not a vodka tonic.
Two glasses of wine.
Make sure you have Joseph with you in your front seat.
Holy.
Hopefully next year we'll be at our event center. So we'll see what, they haven't finished it yet. Yeah.
Oops.
The large window sliding door things are on back order or something.
Oh.
Yeah, so we'll compare prices next year.
Uh-huh.
I would like to say that my,
Should be free.
I like to say that my Easter red bud, I did not kill it.
The after party will be at my house.
I didn't kill it.
No, I didn't,
My
my
lace
Easter
part
red bud.
definitely
Did
died.
it finally?
It bloomed out and then, and now it has a lot of leaves. I'm very excited. I
Yeah,
thought-
mine, I didn't think the leaves
I
were,
thought-
it was one little bloom.
I think
And then the leaves and just.
Oh, your Easter.
My Eastern.
My lace part, yeah.
Oh, your.
But I had a very small one and it's still alive. I don't know why, but the big one just died in the freeze, but.
Any other activities attended?
Okay, so I also met with Phil Clancy.
He's famous now.
And we had a good turnout at Brookhaven for the eclipse watching event. Steve
Mhm.
was there with me and we had a whole array of different telescopes.
5 of them out there.
And, I got several nice photos. So I hope everybody else enjoyed the totality as well.
Very
I got
cool.
cloud.
I don't know if this is directly related, but I'm in an energy management certification course. Because my position is being evolved into including utilities. So
Nice.
that's fun. Is that kind of an activity?
Sure.
Okay, if you're in
It
that class.
relates to sustainability.
Yeah.
Last agenda item is to talk about what we want to do in future agenda items. Yeah.
Bags.
I have a suggestion. Because of all of this talk about Mr. Clancy and runoff water, you know, I'd like to hear from someone who offers alternatives to dealing with runoff water that don't involve creating plastic mulch or, I mean, like planting natives, putting in more trees. That's like the number one way to stop erosion. You know, clean the stormwater, but refurbish the water level, bring up the water table level, like all the things that don't involve investing in building a multi-million-dollar facility to create mulch out of, you know.
We are in the process of hiring a stormwater engineer.
Okay.
So when that person gets on board, that might be a good person to talk to, or to have come talk to us. So it might be a little bit, but.
Sure, that's fine. I just feel like even for like some of these initiatives that the city council is pushing and that they want to, there are other low cost, less, carbon footprint alternatives to get the same end result that would not take 5 years, 10 years to see. I mean, you know, like they'll start return on investment pretty quickly.
Stop cutting your yard. Right?
Well, I mean, no, you don't have to stop cutting your yard, but really the glass, like, what's best for the pollinators is to leave the leaves, like just let them sit. And then, you know, the best thing for your yard instead of fertilizer is just to let the clippings mulch back, like all that kind of
I get
stuff.
cited by the city for doing that.
Well, I understand, but that's what I'm saying, like,
Just for cutting them and having
but
that
it
stuff.
sounds like there's an appetite for solutions on the city council. Well, there are solutions that are not, don't require, the largest investment is in educating everyone on these alternatives that aren't.
And honestly, put like some sort of incentive for people to xeriscape and
Yeah,
plant their yards instead.
Not make
Not
it,
use a water sprinkler or
Yeah.
stuff.
make it prohibitive for people to, you know, participate in things that would help. And, the other thing I wanna know is, there's some bluebonnets that are growing in this park right here, and wouldn't it be cool if they just did a whole bluebonnet field and put like some benches in there, so like people could just
Oh, could take
walk over
pictures.
there and take their little picture of the bluebonnets? That would be fun. Maybe not that park, but a park.
What about this little corner plot park here that, well, there's no parking, that's the problem.
Right, it would need to be a place where there's parking and they could access it without,
You can do it on the berm on Brookhaven, there's parking there.
but,
Yeah, but they have to walk around, but.
They love that because they wouldn't have to use the mowers. Yeah.
I
There
have
you
that bluebonnets in my yard, and I had some neighbors ask if they could put their little dog in the, because it's not a very big patch, it's a little patch, but they were like, can we put our dog in there and take his picture? Like, yeah, of course you can.
Start charging for that.
I mean, it got me to thinking
Great idea.
for the front yard.
Well, it's scary. Like I was on 20 the other day and people were pulled over on the side of the road all along the highway with their kids taking pictures and like
Yeah.
in the buckets and stuff like that. It was like scary. I was scared. I was like, please don't pull over on the side of the highway.
That would be a cool like park idea, especially for some of these little pocket parks that we don't really know what to do with.
For a wildflower.
Like that triangle?
Flower.
Or the one over there across from,
Or if we have these.
over in the kind of the industrial district over there, Millennial Park.
I think it meant golfing green and
I
Joe.
like that idea. I get to talk to
Well,
Robert.
Another idea off of this, which is the same
It's help.
thing, these little pocket parks that we have, not only just the blue bonnets or wildflower ones, but why are we putting grass? I think about this one here on the corner at Brookhaven at the curb. Cause we have grass there, it has to be mowed, it has to be, you know, why don't we just start with those?
Mhm.
Xeriscaping those small parks that don't have parking. This corner one here at Valley View and Webb's Chapel is a beautiful on that southwest corner with a water fountain. It's
Oh,
beautiful.
yeah, I love
Oh,
that.
But
the
I
one that's
see
maintained by
them
the
rip out
church?
those plants all the time, and I'm thinking, how much is this costing?
Yeah.
It's a labor intensive park, am I just
Is that maintained by the city or the church?
the city? Because I see that them pulling out those seasonal plants and putting in other seasonal plant, like, just put,
Well, that's the same thing, that same park the two parks I've been complaining about now for 2 years is Creek Ridge Park, where nobody goes because the traffic is going 50 miles an hour to Webb Chapel. And what is it, Independence Park or whatever, that's in some weird corner that's nothing but dirt and 2 park benches. Like,
yeah.
I just feel like there's a solution where we could get a master
Right.
gardener or someone who could do some like landscape design that's more in line with like perennial, so that, because I know part of the concern is that it looks unkept. They don't want it to look unkept. But there are ways to garden where it's not unkept, but it's kind of blooming all year and then it looks more.
I think Pam and her husband still live in Carrollton, but we actually had courses that were taught at the rec center that they focused in on xeriscaping. And then, I mean, she was responsible for the partnership with the Earth Kind Roses. And then, you know, as you're passing by Hoya, before you get to the roses, the parking on the right, there's this one little plot that has all xeriscape plants. that I think some of them are pollinators too.
Mhm.
It's way overgrown now, but like that's the kind of planting that you're talking about.
Right.
That would be good to keep annually and then they could just landscape it a little.
I think that's an area we should really pursue as well.
Mhm.
Because it's easy.
Yeah.
It's not,
I'm all for that. I would say we can have, I'll have conversations with our
Sure.
parks group. We can have this as an agenda item in the future. This might be a good one for y'all to work with Parks and Rec Board. Go to one of their meetings, bring that up in a citizen comment or reach out to your elected official. You might be faster in getting something accomplished than.
Through this channel, gotcha.
Yeah, because we would just be featuring parks.
Right.
So that would be my quick recommendation.
Well, that was just for the first thing that I said about the runoff, that's really the
Yeah.
one I'm the most interested in, but
I,
Suzanne and
I like.
we'll start
Yeah.
a committee of parks. We're gonna like be on parks.
unrelated,
About the flowers.
so unrelated to like composting or water runoff or any of that. Okay, I remember a while back now, we did one about, driving and smog and pollution and stuff like that. And I remember asking about any studies being done about timing the lights. Did we ever get any information back about that?
I don't think there was any reported to the committee, so I'll put that as a future agenda item.
Thank you.
Last thing real quick, so typically in May, we've done a Dallas College focused meeting. Since we have had so much talk about compost here, I would think that probably needs to be our focus for May. Potentially for June, and we don't have to host it at the college, since we normally host it here, we're right across the street. But for the Dallas College folks, that might be something if you would want to feature any sort of speakers. We've typically done that in May, but just put that on your radar. And we can talk offline.
Well, we have a sustainability director now. We could talk, you and I can talk after.
Would that be for May or for June?
Right, for June, and then we'll have potentially prices work, maybe probably in June as well. So maybe a
Okay.
Dallas College speaker and then a corporate sustainability. That might be kind of a
Nice
little break from city life and
You know,
some other
it's interesting.
organizations.
We talk about Brookhaven, we might be able to talk to some. Our medians in our parking lots now some of them are xeriscapes, the little flower beds at the end of each row, you have flower beds. Many of them, as you go down Windmill Circle, the main circle, they have those cactus,
Yucca.
yucca.
Yeah, a lot of people don't like yucca.
Yeah.
But they're very hardy
They're very
and
hard.
they require very little maintenance.
I mean, zero. Yeah, they're great. Yeah, I mean, they have to keep them trimmed so they don't scratch that first car.
Right.
But, there's no maintenance, they live through the winter.
Mhm.
I mean, it is like nothing.
There's a couple different colors too.
Yeah, yellow or red, I think, flowers, or maybe, yeah, yellow or
I
red.
think like white, yellow,
Maybe.
pink, red. But some people don't like it.
Well,
Cause they're like, they're just sticks.
yeah, they are, but I just put some in my front yard.
I think they look nice.
I've got poison ivy and it killed a bunch of my shrubs, my little manadina, so I just had them all pulled out. And put in all those yuccas. Yeah, I put them in. I was like,
Funsies.
Okay, any other discussion?
I got anyone else? Ooh, this guy.
We'll be meeting for 3 hours next time. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn our meeting?
moved. Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No, it's unanimous. Our meeting is over. It is what,
30.
8:30. Thank you all for coming.
It was 5 hours. I was calling my mother.
No, what are you gonna do? Tell me.
But